Okay, so get this right. We've got this article, and it's laying out some possible foreign policy moves from a potential, second Trump term. And it's pretty wild. We're talking withdrawing from the World Health Organization, like right away, day one. Renewed interest in Greenland, even some stuff about the Panama Canal. It's pretty surprising.
Yeah, you don't see that every day.
So, like, what does this tell us about Trump's priorities, right, if he gets back in office?
Well, I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? It's definitely interesting, to say the least, especially the whole WHO thing. If the U.S. pulls out, it's not just about, like, leaving a building. It's about influence, right? The U.S. loses its voice on global health issues, creates a void. And as we've seen recently, China is more than ready to step into that leadership role.
And the timing is just like, what? The world's still dealing with, the pandemic and everything. Is all this talk about the pandemic agreement, trying to prevent this from happening again. You'd think global health cooperation would be like the top priority.
Right.
Not to mention, the U.S. is the biggest financial contributor to the WHO. Something like 16%.
Yeah, so pulling out, I mean,
Yeah.
it could be seen as a win for China, not just in terms of global health, but also, symbolically. It just adds fuel to the fire, right?
Yeah.
To that whole U.S.-China tension thing.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's the whole Robert F. Kennedy Jr. situation.
Yeah.
This guy's known for, being against vaccines, appointing him to a major health position.
It raises some eyebrows, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What kind of message does that send, about U.S. health policy?
Yeah, exactly.
Public trust. I mean, there's already a delicate balance there, right, when it comes to public health messaging. And this it could erode confidence even further in institutions like the CDC and the FDA.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Speaking of shaking things up,
Mm.
this whole Greenland thing, it's like deja vu, right?
Right.
Trump's back to talking about acquiring the island.
Yeah, Greenland. It's strategically important, more than people realize, maybe. Natural resources, potential for, military positioning, especially with the Arctic region becoming more accessible, melting ice and all that. It's a key piece of the puzzle geopolitically.
Yeah, I remember when he first brought this up, Denmark was like, no thanks,
Yeah.
not for sale.
Yeah, that tells you something, right? It's not a simple transaction. You've got international law, potential diplomatic fallout. Not to mention, the people of Greenland themselves. What do they want?
Right, right. This whole Greenland thing, it seems to fit a pattern with Trump, right?
Yeah.
Remember those comments about Mexico, Canada, even the Panama Canal at one point?
Yeah.
It's like he sees territorial expansion as like it's a measure of power.
And that kind of it can be really destabilizing. Undermines relationships with allies, creates uncertainty on the world stage.
Right.
Words matter, especially from, someone in that position.
Totally, totally. And speaking of the Panama Canal, Trump recently said the U.S. is getting a raw deal there. Even suggested China might be gaining too much influence.
Right. Well, gaining control of the Panama Canal, that's a whole other ballgame. Legally, it would be incredibly complex, logistically a nightmare. Plus, the potential backlash from the international community,
Right.
especially Latin America. It would be massive. You don't just, waltz in and take over.
It's not every day you hear a U.S. leader demanding territory from another country. Even for Trump, this feels pretty bold.
It is. These foreign policy shifts, if they actually happen, they could reshape the whole global landscape in ways we can't even predict right now. It makes you think, How does the U.S. see its role in the world? And what does that mean for everyone else?
Yeah, big questions. Big questions.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It feels like we're seeing this, assertiveness, almost aggression, in foreign policy. It's not really typical for the U.S., so you have to wonder, right? Are these, concrete plans, or is it just political posturing?
It's definitely causing a stir, that's for sure. And, this is Trump we're talking about. The guy's known for being unpredictable and challenging the status quo.
Yeah, that's the wild card, isn't it? What might have seemed like just campaign talk before could actually become policy, in a second term. I mean, we've already seen how his actions can shake things up. Long-standing agreements, norms, all of that. So the potential for more disruption, it's definitely there.
It's like he's playing this high-stakes game of global chess. But it's not just pieces on a board, right? These are decisions that impact real people. Economies, global security.
Right, exactly. Think about the potential ripple effects. Like if the U.S. withdraws from the WHO, it could give other countries justification to do the same, which weakens the organization, makes it harder for them to respond to global health crises. We could see a return to a more fragmented approach to health threats, which is not ideal. especially in a world where diseases can spread so quickly.
Yeah, it's scary to think about. And then you've got the whole Greenland situation. Adds another layer of complexity to the Arctic region, with resources becoming more accessible, shipping routes opening up because of the melting ice. You've got these major players, Russia, China, the U.S., all vying for control.
Yeah, it's a recipe for conflict, that's for sure. The Arctic is becoming a real geopolitical hotspot, and Trump's interest in Greenland. It suggests that the U.S. is looking to assert itself in the region. How that plays out, though, in terms of international relations, military strategy, it's a big question mark.
And let's not forget about the Panama Canal. That's a vital artery for global trade. Any attempt by the U.S. to exert control there
Oh, it would send shockwaves, for sure.
through the international community,
Yeah.
massive economic repercussions.
Imagine the impact on global supply chains, the price of goods. If the Panama Canal became a point of contention between the U.S. and other nations, it'd be a logistical nightmare. Plus the diplomatic fallout, especially in Latin America. I mean, the U.S. has a long history of intervention there. It wouldn't go over well. This whole situation just feels so tense. Like one wrong move could set off this chain reaction with unpredictable consequences.
It is. It's a lot to process. And it really underscores the importance of trying to understand the motivations, right, behind these potential moves. Are they driven by genuine national security concerns, economic interests, a desire to project American power on the world stage?
Yeah.
I mean, the answers to those questions, they'll shape how other countries respond.
And what about the impact here at home? The potential appointment of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to a key health position, given his stance on vaccines, it raises serious concerns about the direction of U.S. health policy and the trust in scientific institutions.
Absolutely. It aligns with this growing trend of skepticism towards science and expertise, which can have real-world consequences. We're already seeing the impact of vaccine hesitancy. And this appointment could further erode public trust in health recommendations, guidelines, which in turn could impact the effectiveness of public health campaigns, potentially lead to outbreaks of preventable diseases. I mean, it feels like we're at this, turning point, so much hanging in the balance. On the one hand, you've got global cooperation and diplomacy, and then there's this other path, all about power plays and going it alone.
Yeah, it's a stark choice.
For sure.
And the direction the U.S. takes, it's going to have this ripple effect, right, throughout the whole world. We're talking about potential shifts in the balance of power, alliances being tested, a whole new set of challenges. It's a lot.
And this is all happening with so much uncertainty already.
Mm-hmm.
Climate change, economic instability, conflicts popping up all over the place.
Right. It's like we're heading into uncharted waters. In times like these, you really need level-headed leadership, strategic thinking, and a commitment to dialogue and diplomacy. The stakes are high. The choices made in the next few years, they could have a lasting impact.
So, after unpacking all of this, where do we go from here? What should we be paying attention to?
Well, first and foremost, pay attention to the new administration's actions, their rhetoric, especially on these foreign policy issues. Are they turning campaign promises into actual policies? Are we seeing a more isolationist U.S. or a more aggressive approach?
And how's the rest of the world reacting to all this? Are those traditional alliances holding up, or are they starting to crack under pressure? Are new partnerships forming?
Right. The geopolitical landscape is constantly shifting. You got to understand those dynamics. And here's something people might not think about. Public opinion matters. Citizen engagement, informed debate, commitment to democratic values. Those are more crucial now than ever. We all have a role to play.
This deep dive has been eye-opening for sure. We're on the verge of a new era in global affairs. The decisions made in the next few years are going to impact all of us.
No doubt about it. It's a time for concern and curiosity. Concern about the potential for instability and conflict, but also curiosity about how all this will reshape the world. Keep asking questions, stay informed, engage in those thoughtful discussions.
Yeah, the future is uncertain, but it's also full of possibilities. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive. It's been a journey. We encourage you to keep exploring these ideas, dig deeper, draw your own conclusions. What does all this tell you about the future of U.S. global leadership? Are we entering a new era of assertive foreign policy? Or is this all just political maneuvering? Keep an eye on these developments. The consequences could be huge. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep diving deep.